All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into some fascinating material you've sent over. It's about one of history's, well, most compelling and genuinely perplexing enigmas. We're talking about the late Bronze Age collapse. This is roughly around 1200 BCE. You have this huge interconnected world, these mighty empires, and it seems like they just vanished almost into thin air, really. In geological terms, it's a blink of an eye. And right smack in the middle of this ancient catastrophe, there's an even bigger puzzle. The sea peoples, these figures who appear in ancient texts, they're portrayed as this mysterious, unstoppable force, just leaving destruction wherever they go. So our goal today is to sift through the historical facts first, understand the sheer scale of the devastation they were supposedly involved in, and then we'll navigate into some really intriguing what-if territory.
Exactly, because the material you've gathered really pushes us to ask, what if these sea peoples were more than just, say, desperate refugees? Or opportunistic raiders? What if their sudden appearance, their terrifying effectiveness, what if it hints at something much bigger? Maybe a deliberately suppressed truth? Perhaps about an advanced civilization, maybe even a non-human or alien influence. That's where this deep dive really gets interesting, exploring the history we do know, then peeling back the layers of this, frankly, wild conspiracy theory, and then, importantly, grounding ourselves back in the logical counter-arguments.
Absolutely. That's the quest today, isn't it? First, let's get grounded in the historical details, which are fascinating in their own right. Then we'll dive into this conspiracy theory, which can get pretty chilling. And finally, bring it back down to earth. Look at the logical counters. And ultimately, you'll see why this kind of theory, this potent idea, it really resonates, isn't it, with our fascination for our lost civilizations and maybe a bit of inherent distrust of official stories. Okay, so that big what if sort of hanging there, let's start with the history. Let's ground ourselves. We need to go back to around 1200 BCE, right on the edge of this global catastrophe. For almost 2,000 years before this, the Bronze Age had built up these incredibly complex societies, all interconnected across the Near East, the Aegean, the Eastern Mediterranean. It was sophisticated for its time, truly globalized, you could say. Intricate trade routes, tin and copper, the essentials for bronze, vibrant diplomatic networks, monumental building. Think of the big players.
The powerful Hittites up in Anatolia, the wealthy Mycenaeans over in Greece, the mighty new kingdom of Egypt, of course, and these bustling trade hubs like Ugarit in the Levant. It really was a kind of golden age.
And then, it's quite remarkable, between about 1200 and 1150 BCE, this entire system just collapses. It comes crashing down. We see widespread, sudden destruction. Major cities, Hattusa, that's the Hittite capital.
Oh, right.
Mycenae, Ugarit, Troy, famous Troy, they're violently destroyed, often by fire, and then just abandoned. But what's maybe even more profound is the loss of knowledge. Writing systems like Linear B,
The Mycenaean scripts.
Exactly, their sophisticated administrative script, it just vanished, gone.
Yeah.
Advanced crafts like complex bronze working, they declined sharply. Those crucial long-distance trade routes evaporated. The period that follows is often called a dark age, and it really was. Severe drops in population, literacy, material culture, right across the region.
And into this chaos, this vacuum, stepped the enigmatic sea peoples.
Yeah.
Now, our main historical source for them, it comes from Egypt, right? Specifically, Pharaoh Ramesses III.
That's the key source, yes.
Yeah.
At his mortuary temple, Medinet Habu, Ramesses III really boasts about defeating them. There's this famous inscription.
You have the quote. Let's hear it.
Yeah, it's quite vivid, he says. The foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once the lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms, from Hatti, Kode, Carchemish, Arzawa, and Alashia, on the way to Egypt. And then he lists them. They were a united league of Peliset, Jeker, Shekelesh, Denyen, and Weshesh lands.
Wow. United League. He makes them sound incredibly organized and powerful.
He depicts them as a truly formidable force, land and sea, and visually they're distinct. Unique horn helmets for some groups, like the Sheridan.
I've seen those reliefs, yeah.
And these distinctive feathered headdresses on the Peliset. They also show up with new ship designs in the depictions. And crucially, the Egyptian texts mention they came with families, possessions too, which implies, more than just raiding. It really suggests migration, maybe invasion.
Okay, so these names, Peliset, Sheridan, Shekelesh, do we know who they actually were?
Well, that's where the debate still rages, really. Scholars have made tentative links. The Peliset are most commonly connected to the Philistines.
From the Bible.
Yes, the ones who later settled in Canaan. The Sheridan, maybe from Sardinia. They were actually known as mercenaries for Egypt before the collapse. Shekelesh are sometimes linked to Sicily. The Denyen, maybe the Denyans from Greek legend, like the Iliad. But these are mostly educated guesses. Despite these hints, their ultimate origins, what drove them, whether they were truly united or just a loose mix of groups, it's still a major historical mystery. Refugees, pirates, displaced soldiers, something else.
And it's exactly that ambiguity, isn't it? That mystery that hangs over them. That's what fuels these much more dramatic, even chilling conclusions for some people. You see, for some, the vagueness in the Egyptian records, the sheer unprecedented scale of the collapse hitting so many places at once, and how the sea peoples just appear seemingly so effective. They don't see that as just gaps in our knowledge. They see it as deliberate omissions, a cover-up, designed to hide a truth that's just too big, too monumental for the standard history books. And that line of thinking takes us right into the core of the conspiracy theory itself. Okay, so let's unpack this conspiracy. The Sea Peoples, hidden architects of collapse. The central idea here is that these invaders weren't just barbarians or refugees, not at all. Instead, they were like the leading edge, the vanguard of a highly advanced civilization, possessing technology, knowledge way beyond anything their neighbors had.
And a key part of this for many proponents is this beyond human origins angle. It's not just about them being, say, displaced people from Crete or somewhere. No, the theory suggests they might have been survivors of a lost advanced civilization. You know, the usual suspects, Atlantis, maybe some other pre-cataclysm global culture, and they somehow kept fragments of its high technology. Or, and this is where it gets even more sci-fi, maybe they were influenced from off-world. A human group given tech assistance by non-human, maybe alien entities. That's what gave them the edge. Some even speculate about them being a reemergence of an older, maybe non-human lineage that predates us, sort of, intervening in history now and then. It definitely gives you pause for thought.
It really does. And the theory points to specific things, like their advanced metallurgy and weaponry. The claim is their weapons were just superior, capable of cutting through standard bronze armor and shields, which inset may be early ironworking, or even more exotic alloys we don't know about.
Right. While mainstream history sees iron tech spreading slowly after the collapse began, this theory flips it. It says the Sea Peoples already had advanced iron knowledge. Maybe that was their secret weapon.
And the ships, too.
Yeah, the ship designs. Things like the brailed rig, better sail control, and the crow's nest for lookouts. The argument is these innovations appear almost out of nowhere in the record with the Sea Peoples. It suggests a leap in nautical tech that doesn't fit the normal, gradual development model we usually see.
Okay, so advanced tech.
Yeah.
But why? What was their true purpose, according to this theory? Not just raiding for loot.
No, not just raiding. The theory sees their attacks as a calculated destabilization, a coordinated strategic campaign, the goal, to dismantle the entire Bronze Age global order. The widespread destruction of cities isn't just collateral damage, it's seen as deliberate depopulation and reset.
A reset what?
Motives vary in the theories. Maybe resource control, maybe something darker like eugenics, or ensuring genetic purity, or maybe just eradicating the old ways, wiping the slate clean for something new. They suggest the Dark Age that followed wasn't an accident, it was a deliberate regression, a controlled fall designed to guide human development down a specific path they wanted. And even the places they settled afterwards, like the Philistines and Canaan, aren't seen as just finding a new home. They're viewed as strategic outposts, maybe even hidden research bases.
So who's behind it all? The who behind the Sea Peoples? Who are the masterminds, the puppeteers?
Well, that's another layer. Were the Sea Peoples themselves the advanced ones? Or were they a proxy force, acting for maybe an older secret society that survived from before? Or an extraterrestrial intelligence? Or even some unseen faction here on Earth, operating from the shadows? The theory sometimes suggests that the groups who did survive and settle, like the Philistines, might represent a kind of hidden bloodline, still holding secret knowledge passed down from those advanced ancestors.
Wow, that really transforms the whole story, doesn't it? From a historical puzzle to this terrifying narrative. Cosmic intervention, planned societal collapse.
It's this idea that our current civilization might be built on the ashes of a deliberately dismantled, maybe more advanced age, all orchestrated by a hidden hand. It's a powerful and, pretty unsettling thought.
And if that's the case, then the next logical step in the conspiracy is huge, that powerful forces today know this truth. They know about the Sea People's real role, and they are actively, meticulously suppressing it.
Exactly. Proponents of this theory identify these suppressors as operating throughout history, adapting over time. It might start, they say, with ancient priesthoods, ancient elites. Right after the collapse, they initiate the cover-up to keep control, to keep power over a terrified population who just saw their world end. Then, this secret knowledge gets passed down the centuries. Through hidden groups, secret societies, maybe specific bloodlines who are in the know, and in the modern era, the claim is the cover-up continues. Through governments, maybe mainstream academia, official archaeology pushes the safe explanations, perhaps because they're just stuck in dogma, or maybe they're pressured by funding sources.
Funding sources with an agenda.
Possibly. Entities that benefit from keeping the secret, and right at the top of the pyramid, you often hear about a global cabal, a deep state, this shadowy network that's supposedly monopolizing lost technology, preventing disruption, maybe even hiding their own lineage back to the original masterminds.
Okay, but why? What are the supposed motives for suppression? Why go to all this trouble for thousands of years?
Well, the chilling why is multifaceted, according to the theory. One big reason: preventing panic. Imagine if humanity knew that an advanced force could just dismantle civilization like that. And maybe it could, again. It would cause chaos. Another motive: controlling technology. If there was a prior advanced era, suppressing that knowledge maintains the current power structure's control over tech development. It supports the narrative of slow, linear human progress, which might be false, and ultimately it protects the hidden agenda, whatever it might be, of this controlling elite. They maintain power by keeping the rest of us ignorant of our true, possibly manipulated past.
And how would they even do this? The methods of suppression.
Proponents point to several methods. Tight control of information is key. That means censoring archaeological finds that don't fit the narrative, discrediting researchers who ask the wrong questions, meticulously managing the historical story taught in schools and universities. Also, misdirection. Constantly emphasizing natural causes for the collapse, drought, earthquakes, system failure to divert attention from anything more orchestrated.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. Then there's the idea of co-opting scholars. Funding research that supports the mainstream view while marginalizing or defunding those who challenge it, maybe even ridicule. And of course, the more cloak and dagger stuff. Allegations of destroying or hiding artifacts. Secret archaeological digs where anomalous evidence, advanced tech, unusual remains is supposedly found and immediately whisked away, hidden from the public.
This is where it gets really deep down the rabbit hole, isn't it? The idea that we're all living under this kind of historical veil, unaware that a key moment in our past wasn't just history happening, but was engineered by forces way beyond what we normally imagine. And this premise, this chilling idea, it pushes people to look for the evidence in the gaps, the ambiguities, the things that don't quite fit the standard story.
That's right. And proponents find their evidence in several key areas. First, just the unprecedented speed and scale of the collapse itself. They argue, look, can drought and earthquakes really explain so many powerful independent empires falling almost simultaneously across such a vast area? For them, it feels too quick, too total. It must have been coordinated, an intentional reset.
Okay.
Then there's the Sea People's alleged technological superiority we talked about, those Egyptian hints about weapons.
The iron or strange alloys.
Right, and those revolutionary ship designs appearing almost out of nowhere. They see that as positive evidence of advanced knowledge. Also, the blank slate after the collapse, the Dark Age. It's viewed not just as a tough time, but as a deliberate regression, a forced erasure of knowledge, like wiping out Linear B and dismantling the old power structures. The vague and glorifying Egyptian records Ramesses boasting about his victory are seen not as typical royal propaganda, but as censorship, hiding the terrifying truth about who he really faced to protect his own image and maybe prevent mass hysteria.
So the lack of detail is the evidence, in a way.
For proponents, yes. Then there's the missing archaeological data. Why is it so hard to pin down the Sea People's origins? Not because of poor preservation or the chaos of the times, they argue, but because the evidence has been deliberately removed or suppressed. They also often connect this to the broader out-of-place artifacts or OPART's argument, suggesting a pattern throughout history of advanced knowledge appearing and disappearing. The Sea Peoples are just one instance linked to this hidden lineage or these cyclical interventions. And finally, they look at it as a historical parallel to resets. The Bronze Age collapse wasn't unique, maybe, perhaps like the Younger Dryas event theories or Great Flood myths, pointing to an ongoing, hidden hand that periodically cleans the slate of civilization.
It's definitely a narrative that pulls together a lot of threads, a lot of anomalies. It paints a very dramatic picture. But how does this stack up against what most historians and archaeologists actually think? When we look at the mainstream counterarguments, the story is, well, a lot more complex. But it's backed by different kinds of evidence, isn't it? Generally rejecting the whole supernatural or ET intervention angle.
Yes, absolutely. Mainstream history doesn't point to one single cause, like an advanced invasion. Instead, it talks about multiple interconnected factors, what historians often call a perfect storm. For instance, paleoclimatology, studying past climates, shows strong evidence for prolonged, severe climate change, specifically drought, right around 1200 BCE.
Across the whole region.
Pretty widespread, yeah.
Yeah.
Leading to massive crop failures, famine, huge population movements, people desperate for food and water. Then you add in geology. There's evidence for earthquake storms, periods of increased seismic activity, destabilizing cities, disrupting trade routes in this seismically active region.
Okay, drought, earthquakes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
System collapse of interdependence. The Bronze Age world was highly connected, remember. When one part, say, a major grain supplier or a source of tin gets disrupted, it has knock-on effects everywhere, like dominoes falling. Famine and hardship also inevitably lead to internal rebellions and social unrest. People rise up against rulers who can't protect them or feed them. This weakens the big empires from within. And finally, there's the ironworking transition. It was gradual, not sudden, but the shift away from complex, centrally controlled bronze trade towards more locally sourced iron did eventually empower smaller groups, changing the geopolitical landscape.
So in this view, the Sea Peoples aren't the masterminds causing the collapse.
No, they're seen largely as a symptom, not sole cause. They're a consequence of the chaos, not its primary orchestrators. The most widely accepted idea is that many were likely refugees or displaced populations. Entire communities fleeing those same droughts, famines, wars that were destabilizing the empires, desperately looking for new places to live.
Makes sense.
And it's also true that some groups involved, like the Sheridan, were known mercenaries and pirates for ages. When the Central Powers weakened, these groups naturally got bolder, formed larger bands, took advantage of the chaos, and the Egyptian lists themselves named several distinct groups, Peliset, Shaker, etc. That points towards heterogeneous groups. A loose confederation maybe, and not some single, unified high-tech force.
What about the tech? The iron weapons, the ships?
Well, the gradual adoption of iron is key. Some iron was around, yes, but it wasn't widespread or clearly superior to good bronze right at the start of the collapse. It wasn't a sudden superweapon appearing overnight. That came later. And the vagueness of Egyptian sources. Historians see that as pretty standard for royal propaganda. Pharaohs always exaggerated threats and victories. They weren't writing objective historical ethnographies. It's not necessarily evidence of a cover-up.
Just how kings talked back then.
Pretty much. And finally, there is archaeological evidence. We can trace settlement patterns linked to groups like the Philistines after the collapse, showing distinct pottery, architecture. It counters the idea of missing data. And crucially, despite decades of searching, thousands of sites excavated, there's simply no credible evidence of advanced technology that's truly out of place or suggests some radical leap beyond known Bronze Age capabilities.
Okay, so when you weigh it all up,
Yeah.
the mainstream historical view offers this complex picture, a convergence of environmental disasters, internal problems, shifting technologies, and yes, migrating, sometimes raiding groups like the Sea Peoples caught up in it all. It's a story driven by earthly pressures, not hidden masterminds. And yet, despite all that evidence, despite the complexity offered by historians, this Sea Peoples, hidden architects of collapse theory, it just persists, doesn't it? It really captures the imagination.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. And why it endures, I think, tells us a lot about ourselves, about how we process history and mystery. First, there's simply the powerful allure of the unknown. The Sea Peoples are still one of history's great unsolved puzzles. That ambiguity is fertile ground for speculation.
People love a mystery.
Exactly. Then there's the pull of the lost civilization archetype. Atlantis, Mu, Lemuria. The idea of a great forgotten past is deeply embedded in human thought. The Sea Peoples can easily be slotted into that narrative. It also definitely taps into a modern distrust of mainstream narratives, a skepticism towards official history, towards experts, towards institutions, the belief that they are probably hiding something.
And let's be honest, the perfect storm explanation, it's complicated.
It is. It's less exciting than a secret invasion by an advanced race.
Yeah.
It's harder to grasp, less dramatic, which speaks to our inherent need for simple answers to complex problems. We often crave a single grand cause for big events rather than juggling multiple messy factors.
Easier to tell a story that way.
That much easier. And you can't discount the science fiction influence. Popular culture is filled with ancient aliens, lost technologies, conspiracies. It makes these theories feel, well, almost familiar, maybe even plausible to some. And maybe, underneath it all, there's a deeper human desire for contact or meaning. A hope, perhaps, that we're not alone in the universe or that our history is part of some grander hidden drama. These theories can satisfy that longing.
So what this deep dive really highlights is this tension, isn't it? Our very human craving for dramatic, maybe simpler answers versus the often complex, nuanced, and sometimes less satisfying truths that history and science uncover. The enduring appeal of the Sea People's conspiracy isn't just about ancient ship designs or vague inscriptions. It's a mirror, reflecting our own psychology, our biases, and maybe that universal desire for a truly epic story.
That sums it up beautifully. It's this compelling mix of genuine historical mystery and, well, a profound human yearning for a hidden narrative, for something bigger.
So as you ponder the great mysteries of our past, the forces that have shaped civilizations, think about this enigma of the Sea Peoples. Were they just desperate refugees caught up in a perfect storm of climate change, system collapse? Their story may be amplified by Egyptian propaganda for the pharaoh's glory. Or were they something far more? A hidden hand, deliberately guiding the currents of human history. Their true nature veiled, suppressed by those who don't want us to know, buried deep beneath the sands of time. The definitive answer. For now, it really does seem lost in those ancient echoes. But that captivating what if, well, it continues to inspire endless wonder, fear, and speculation, doesn't it?